Hello everyone. In this video, I'm talking about comparative adjectives. So here we go. Well, compare helps us to give information about two things. For example, we use a comparative adjective plus than to compare to people, to places, or to things. In this case, for example, Lydia is taller than Alex. Maybe we are comparing two girls. So in the next example, gorillas are more intelligent than cows. We are talking about animals and we are comparing the intelligence. So you can use a comparative adjective plus noun when the comparison is clear from the context. So in this case, we didn't use than plus the other thing to compare. For example, the bigger house is mine. Maybe there are a lot of houses, but the bigger is mine. So we didn't compare or we didn't make the comparison with the other things because it's really obvious. So the other example, the more interesting shows are on cable TV. So it's clear and it's related to the context. So in short adjectives, we are talking about adjectives that only one syllable. We only add er or r to the ending. For example, in the case of small, smaller, large, larger, low, lower, and nice, nicer. We only have to add at the end er, or in the case of large, for example, that the adjective finishes or ends in e, we only add r. So we use the word more before most long adjectives. So we are talking about adjectives that two or more syllables. So in this case, we have to use more, then the adjective, and then the expression than. So in this case, for example, Jack is more serious than Nikki. Or the other example, do you think math is more important than music? And then we have cases in which we can use more or we can use the ending er. For example, in the case of quiet, we can say quieter or more quiet. Or in the case of simple, we can use simple or more simple. So the two ways are correct. So in some adjectives, we have an irregular comparative form. That is the case of good. We said better. We can say gooder, for example, is not correct. Or we can use bad, and the comparative adjective is worse because it's irregular, but we can say better. In the case of far, we use farther or further, but we can't use farther, for example. It's not correct because it's an irregular adjective. When we're talking in English or speaking in English, most of the time we use some expressions such as a little, a lot, much, or not much. For example, Tina is a little taller than Nick. So we are expressing comparison. And now we give more information. For example, we can use an object pronoun to complete a comparison. In this case, for example, Ed is 6 feet tall. Bob is taller than him. we use an object pronoun, and we are talking about or we refers to it. So, in some cases, when we are talking about or when we are speaking in a formal way or we are writing in a formal way, we have to use the subject pronoun plus the auxiliary verb. In this case, for example, Ed is 6 feet tall, Bob is taller than he is. Estamos hablando de Ed. The action is refers to Ed and compared to Bob, for example. Most of the time, we can use the auxiliary verb after than. Do not repeat the main verb. In this case, Anna runs faster than Pat does. We use does because the sentence is in simple present, and we use the auxiliary to the tense. For example, if we are talking about in past, we use did. If we are talking with a verb, with the auxiliary verb are, we conjugate in the time that we are talking about. In this case, we are talking about in present, so we use does, the third person. It is incorrect to say Anna runs faster than Pat runs because we are repeating the same action. Okay. Also, it is possible to use a possessive noun or a possessive pronoun, and then we can use than. So, my car was more expensive than Ellen's. My car was more expensive than hers. So, in the first, the meaning is mi carro fue más caro que el de Ellen. In the second, mi carro fue más caro que el de ella. And then, if the comparison is clear, we can omit than and the second part of the comparison because it's not necessary. In the example, nowadays, smartphones are cheaper. It's a fact. Okay? For that reason, we can add the second part and that. And also, it's really important to pay attention to the use of than. We can say than to compare two things, but we can't use then in a comparison. For example, I work harder than I used to. Trabajo más duro de lo que solía. But we can say I work harder than I used to. It's not correct. We have to use in comparison than. So it's all for this video. If you have any question, you can send me your question by chat, right? So see you next time.